Hi, everyone. My name's Laura Ebenstein, and I work with the HUCTW office, the Harvard Union of Clerical and Technical Workers. Thanks so much for being here today for our car buying and financing seminar. We have a great collaboration with the Harvard Union or the Harvard University Credit Union, and we're really grateful that they have worked with us over the years to have these seminars and also to be open to new ideas such as this one. We're glad to see so many people were interested. And I'm going to pass this off to Sarah.
Thank you, Laura. Great to have everybody here this morning. Like Laura said, this was definitely a great topic for the timing. I think a lot of us, this is on our minds, buying a car. We were just talking about timing of it all ourselves. So we're excited to be with you. Like Laura said, my name is Sarah Scruggs. I am the Community Engagement Specialist at Harvard University Employees Credit Union. And Migdalia Gomez, the Community Engagement Manager, will join us about halfway through. You will see her name pop up in the chat throughout the time. And we will be answering questions throughout today's presentation, as well as at the end. So a couple of things to note. First is that we've gone ahead and muted everybody on the call except for our presenters, so that hopefully you can continue doing whatever you need to do while you are watching and paying attention to our presentation. Maybe that is crunching some pretty loud chips. Feel free, that is totally fine. But we don't want you to not ask questions because of this. There is actually a questions feature. It will either be on the right-hand side of your screen or at the top navigation. It may say questions or chat, and we want to make sure that you know where this is. So if you could, just let us know where you are joining us from today. That would be awesome. If you could let us know in the questions feature where you are joining us from today, that would be great. All right, thank you so much. Wow, I'm glad to see that you can hear me. Watertown, Cambridge, Brighton, Maine. All right. Harvard campus, Somerville, got another Somerville here. Northampton, wonderful. Great, thank you so much. I'm glad to see that everyone knows where that questions feature is. Please know that this is where we would like you to ask those questions. Feel free, if something comes to your mind that you have a question about with auto buying or financing, please just drop it there and we will ask it anonymously or either answer you via that chat. So hopefully we can get to some of those questions today. The presentation will be made available after we are finished today, and we will be having a recording, and that will go up on our YouTube channel. You will receive all of these in an email either tomorrow or Monday morning, but this way you have access to all of these materials. So if you missed something or need to go back and hear it again, this is all you need to do is go back to that email. So be on the lookout for that. And then we do ask that before you head out this afternoon, if you could let us know how we did via our survey link. We will be dropping that survey link in the chat. It is a quick survey, I promise. And this just makes sure that we can continue on building these presentations. This idea actually came from a survey for this auto buying presentation. So we do take a lot of those answers into account when planning. Harvard University Employees Credit Union is Harvard's not-for-profit financial institution. And so we provide everything that a bank does, but we believe we do it just a little bit better. And so if you have questions about any of our products, we will be speaking about obviously our auto loan product today, but if anything else is of interest to you, or if you're wondering about membership, please let us know. We're more than happy to talk about that as well. So let's jump right into our topic today. I want to get us started. We had a ton of great questions submitted in the registration, and I know that you all will have a myriad of great questions today as well. So making a plan is the first thing that we need to do when we start thinking about car buying. First of all of you have already done this. Congratulations. Your first part of the plan was coming to this webinar today. So that is something you can check off the list. But a couple of things that we need to talk about first. We got a lot of questions about leasing cars versus buying cars. So a great A little layout here, some advantages and disadvantages. And one thing that I want to add to the advantages that's not on here is that a lot of times you may not be paying for a lot of the repairs or things of that nature that happen after a car may get some wear and tear. Like my car is coming up on needing new tires, and let's say that you have a 3-year lease. You may not ever need to buy new tires for the car. So that could be advantage of leasing, along with driving a new car every few years, possible lower monthly payments, and there's possible lower upfront costs as well. There are some disadvantages. The vehicle does not belong to you. It's a lease, it's on loan, and it is difficult to get out of lease contracts. So note that. And then you do have to purchase a specific car insurance plan when you do lease a car, so something to take into account as well. There are additional fees that could happen with leases. So really just think all of these through before you make a plan on whether to lease or to buy for you and your family. Really sit down and think, what is best for us in this time period and however long that contract may last. Another extremely popular question, what are some of the disadvantages and advantages of buying used versus new? Thinking about buying new, that is a pretty reliable car that you're going to be getting. There are no previous owners. There's a manufacturer's warranty that comes with it, and you can customize it as much as you want. There are a range of products of new cars, and you have the ability to choose which one fits you and your lifestyle best. These cars are going to cost more. We all know that. And the insurance will be higher on new cars. They cost a little bit more to protect, so insurance companies are going to charge you more. And we have all heard it. I know I've heard it a million times. The moment you drive a car off the lot, it depreciates in value. And that is extremely true. There is immediate depreciation when you do drive that car off the lot. So advantages of buying used. Lower cost a lot of times. I know for myself, that was a really big factor. And slower depreciation. Since it's already had that initial depreciation from leaving the lot, when you buy it used, that depreciation actually slows down just a little bit. With some of the disadvantages, you have to learn about the car history. This car could have been in accidents, it could have been damaged previously, or have had multiple owners that you kind of need to track down and figure out what happened with each owner. Normally there is no warranty, or it could be very limited. There could be higher maintenance costs with used cars. An older car, sometimes you just have to pay a lot of money to get it fixed up, and you may need to purchase a replacement car sooner. So just like with leasing versus buying, it is so important to figure out what works with you and your lifestyle and your family's needs when you're thinking about a car. Some tips for buying used. We had a couple of questions about where is a good place to go to get solid research about cars. And one of the things we definitely recommend is asking for the repair history, getting that VIN number and running the history report, and then talking to an independent mechanic. If you have never taken your car to a mechanic here in the greater Boston area, or maybe you live somewhere else at this point in time, I highly recommend checking out reviews online of independent mechanics, as well as talking with neighbors, seeing if they recommend anyone. I know for us, I asked people around at work for a good idea of who to take my car to, and that was extremely helpful. And then do remember that most sales of private used cars come as is, and that there is very little consumer protection, unfortunately. But if you can get a really good deal and you've done all of the things to make sure that the car is as they say it is when you're buying possibly from just a previous owner or something of that nature, and you feel comfortable with it, this can be a great way to get a good deal on a car. So let's say that you already have a car, but you're thinking of maybe getting a newer car or finding one with more space. what are the options that you have? The first would be to keep your car. There are a lot of times where I know in my family we had a lot of fun passing down our cars. That was definitely a family tradition. We all got to start off in my mom's huge SUV for driving. So will anyone in your family need a car soon? If they will, it may be a good idea to keep the car. I know in my family, when I traded up my car, we actually ended up making sure that my grandparents were able to drive my car, and that was important for us. So we kept it in our family. And then selling or trading in. Research the value of your car. Know what your car is worth. A great place to go and find the value of the current car is Kelley Blue Book, Kelley Blue Book, or NADA. Those are both extremely trustworthy sites. And you can type in everything that's happened to the car, and they will be able to tell you the value and a value range as well. Fix anything that can be fixed easily on the car if you're going to go ahead and sell it, and clean it. Just like if you were going to sell something, I know I see things on Facebook Marketplace all the time that have been cleaned or washed or put through the dryer, sanitized. That is extremely important when you're looking to sell your car as well. And you normally can get more money if you sell it yourself than to trade it in to a dealership. This is not always the case, but probably about 99% of the time it is the case that you can get a little bit more if you sell it yourself rather than trading it in. But sometimes, a dealership may have specials that they're doing where it may be a better option to trade it in for you, and you don't have to go through the hassle of selling it. That can take a lot of time and be something that you may not want to do. So all things to consider. I want to stop
Hi,
here and see.
Sarah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I knew there were going to be some questions. Go ahead, Migdalia.
You can tell Sarah and I do a lot of these together. Okay, so we have a couple of questions. The first one being, how do you actually take to an independent mechanic? You can't take it off the lot or from the private vendor without paying first. I'll sort of speak to this first, and feel free, either Laura or Sarah, if you have something else to add, please feel free to add as well. I actually have done this with the prior car that I purchased, and I believe it was part, I think they gave me 24 to 48 hours. It was part of the agreement, part of the contract, that I could return the car if there was any issue with it. And in my case, it actually really worked out. I had purchased this vehicle, and my uncle was a mechanic, and I was very fortunate. So I took it to him, and he found a lot of things that were wrong with it. And I was able to get my money back, return the car, didn't have any issues. So I would talk to the seller and see what options they would allow, but it isn't uncommon. I've done it, and I know other people that have done it as well. Sarah and Laura, not sure if you want to add anything before I move on to the next part.
Definitely. And that's something too that to remember throughout this whole process is that you're in control of this process. And if you don't feel comfortable buying a vehicle without somebody looking at it, let the seller know and say, hey, I don't feel comfortable buying this until somebody looks at it. And hopefully you can get something like that written into your contract.
Thank you, Sarah. Another question, can you take your car to a CarMax and give it there and have them do the trade-in? I'm not as familiar with this process, so I will see if Sarah or Laura know. And I will say, unfortunately, there are going to be some pieces that we don't know, but we'll definitely take a look and gather these questions and provide answers in the follow-up email.
Yeah, so I'm pretty positive that with large dealerships like a CarMax, they do have trade-in options, but I definitely recommend reaching out specifically to whatever dealership you may be interested in trading in your car with, and reach out to them and say, this is something that I'm thinking about, and then they will call you about 10 more times after that. But just remember that you have the power to reach out and ask some questions. And Laura, I saw that you unmuted yourself, so I'll go ahead and give you the floor.
Oh, I just wanted to have full disclosure that I have never owned a car. And so I don't have a lot to add, but I just wanted to let everyone know that we know this is a frustrating process, and that's why we're here.
Thanks, Laura.
Absolutely.
And I will say too, I've had a lot of family that has either worked in car dealerships or have been mechanics. I know people that have owned car dealerships, and one of the things that they have told me about trade-in was that typically when you trade in your car with the same company that you're buying the car, you're usually going to get a lower value. So that's something to just keep in mind. Definitely do your research beforehand. That way, when you're going in, you have an idea of what the trade-in value is. Somebody asked, what about donating your car?
Yeah, so there are definitely organizations that take those donations. Again, I would reach out to where you specifically have questions about donating your car and seeing what the process is like. But that is something that you want to make sure that you're donating to a 501c3 to make sure that that is all going to be approved for that nonprofit.
Thank you. There's a question about what benefits do we get buying electric cars in mass? I don't know this answer, and I don't know if Sarah will either, but I will do some research and drop something either in the chat or drop it in the follow-up email. Another question that came in, can you negotiate the price on a lease?
That's a good question, and I don't know that answer myself, Migdalia. I don't know if you do at all, but of course, we are happy to find that answer for you if we don't know it right now.
Thank you. It's my understanding from people, again, that I've in my household that I have, that you can usually negotiate any price. Typically, the recommendation that I've received is go towards the end of the month when sales folks are trying to meet certain quotas, because they have a little bit more flexibility at that point. But typically, you are able to try to negotiate pretty much everything when it comes to that car buying process. And then I have one more question, and I'll turn it back to you, Sarah. The last question that we currently have. Yep, had some other people say that, yes, you can negotiate the price. Thank you. And that's, you know what, and thank you also for that. If if we get a question and you have some experience, please share that. As Laura said, we know this can be overwhelming, and we're all here to help each other. So if you do have some knowledge, feel free to drop that and we'll share it with everyone. Another question that came in is, buying your car after you've had it leased for 3 years, is it a good idea?
It definitely can depend for the situation that you're in. If you really like the car and you feel like, okay, this is the car that I want to own, then it can be a good situation for you. But sometimes it's not going to be the best situation. If you realize that maybe now I do want to own a car, but maybe not this particular car, it's okay to try out other cars as well. So I highly recommend speaking with the organization that you're leasing from, and talking about what that might look like to buy the car, but keeping your options open for something else if that would work better for you and your family.
Thanks, Sarah. And we had a couple of folks drop some information, so I wanted to share. Someone said, regarding electric cars, something to bear in mind is whether there's a charging area that is convenient. Thank you so much for that. That's a very good point. You want to make sure you can charge your car. And there have been a lot more places that have had them recently, but you definitely want to keep that in mind. And then there was someone who mentioned that our green discount at HUCU, we will be talking a little bit about our loan options. So thank you for bringing those up. We do have a couple of different changes actually to our auto loan programs, which are much more favorable. Not that they were bad before, but they're much better even now. Always looking, because there's been an increase in need for car loans. So we made some adjustments to make them even easier to get and help out more people. And then the last one that came in, yes, sometimes it is, did you say you should buy at the end of the month? Towards the end of the month, you tend to have a little bit more possibility to negotiate because they are trying to meet certain quotas. That's very similar to the end of the year if they're trying to get rid of their last older inventories to make room for the new inventory that's coming in. And Sarah, I will turn it back to you. Feel free to continue the questions. We'll take another break shortly for questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone, for those questions. And exactly like Migdalia said, please too, if you have information on something that you'd like to share with folks, that's what we're here for as well. We want to make sure that we get as much information to everyone in this group as possible. So talking a little bit more about finances, there were a couple of questions there about financing and thinking through that. And so I'm going to take us through kind of the beginnings of financing, and then Migdalia will kind of finish that up for us. So the first thing we need to think about is, what is our budget? Really, when we have a car in mind, that's a good time to start thinking about a budget, but it's also probably good to start thinking about it before you have a specific car in mind, because that can play a factor. So what are some of the usual car expenses? If you've never owned a car before, these are really important to keep in mind. And car expenses vary from state to state, city to city, town to town. So it's very important that you get this information up front. Not only will you be paying the monthly payment, but you'll also have car insurance. Car insurance is required to register your vehicle in Massachusetts and most states. So it is important that you have car insurance. Taxes and registration, you will have to go to the lovely RMV and make sure everything is good to go with your registration. We do have to get our cars inspected here in Massachusetts each year. Previously, where I lived, I had never had my car inspected before, but that is definitely something that happens in a lot of states. Wear and tear, you are going to have to fix your car from time to time. You have to wash your car here a lot. So if you don't have a place to wash your car, you're going to have to pay for a car wash. I know that we definitely go to the car wash in the winter because of the salt on the roads. It's very important that they clean the bottom of your car. Gas and parking. Here where I live in Somerville, we park our car on the street, and we do have a citywide parking pass, which is wonderful. And we pay that one time a year fee. Other towns, it can be very different. You may have to park it if you are going to leave for the summer or things of that nature. You may have to find a permanent parking place. So keep that in mind as well. And then oil changes. Those do happen. They say about every 6 months, depends on how much you drive the car. But just keep in mind that all of these things need to be factored into your budget when you're thinking about buying a car, because it is much more than just the car expense itself. It is everything that happens around that car to keep it running and on the road as well. So if you're thinking about buying a car, there are a couple of things you need to think about. Of course, the financing, the loan itself, but then also thinking about the down payment. And there are a couple of different options we want to talk through. So you found a great car, it's $25,000. That will be your purchase price. And there are 3 different scenarios that we're going to walk through. One is that there is no down payment. You've decided, to not make a down payment. And then one is $5,000 and one is $10,000. So what effect does this have on the overall financing of the car? So your loan amount is different with each of them because you've decided not to put down a down payment on in one situation all the way to putting a $10,000 down payment. Your monthly payments will be different based on this. And the total interest paid is something that we really want you all to see, because this is the number that is very different from the left-hand column all the way over to the right-hand column. And it can save you quite a bit of interest if you do put down a larger down payment. And it can save you that monthly payment as well. So it saves you a lot of money in the monthly payment too. And the total vehicle cost will be much higher if you decide not to put down a down payment, rather than if you put down a small down payment like $5,000 or $10,000 even, so that hopefully it can save you money over the long run. So this is a really good option to think about. Maybe you don't have a down payment saved just yet, but you're thinking about buying a car. Maybe this month is the month that you say, okay, I'm going to start my savings account for my down payment for my car, so that hopefully you can put, you even see in the middle column, it does save you money. It saves you about $100 a month on that monthly payment if you put down $5,000. So it's very important that you're hopefully saving for this down payment for yourself. And we'll go through a couple of different scenarios as well. You may hear of offers and things of that nature, and Migdalia will actually walk us through a couple of those. Know that you're not alone when calculating these things. HUECU does have calculators available on our website, huecu.org/calculators. And there is a savings calculator there that you can play with. They also have an auto loan calculator there that you can play with and change around how much down payment you would have, and maybe how long the terms would be. So those are all things to think about. And know that you don't have to go it alone. HUECU has calculators there for you. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Magdalia to speak a little bit more about credit score and some more about the financing process as well.
Thanks, Sarah. I'm going to take a quick minute and just go through a couple of questions because we definitely had a good amount that came up. Someone mentioned in their conversations with car dealerships, they are saying that prices are higher now because there's limited inventory. That is correct. We have definitely seen that as well. How do we know when it is the most advantageous to either buy or lease a car? Truthfully, it's really going to depend on the deal that you're able to get and just comparing prices. It's almost like home buying, like shopping around for most products, even smaller ones, looking and seeing what are I'm an Excel person, so I tend to always do an Excel, but just going and seeing different prices, different cars, because until you've seen about 4 or 5 options, especially for the same type of car or similar car, then you'll have a better idea if the price that you're being given or offered is higher or lower. It's hard to do it without comparing. So the best way is really to compare all the options, go to different types of car dealerships, look online. Someone mentioned in the chat that going online, even if it's through a big car dealership, sometimes you could get different options. So that's another suggestion. And somebody asked about best practice for the terms of a loan, 36, 48, or 60 months. So we're gonna actually talk about that shortly. So you'll actually see an example. Is there a best time to buy a car? Do prices tend to be cheaper during certain months or seasons? Yes, typically end of the year will tend to be a good time. They're trying to clear out inventory towards the end of the month. Every car dealer will be a little bit different, but typically towards the end, the conclusion, which makes sense because they're trying to make space for newer inventory. What benefits might there be in using Zipcar as needed rather than buying or leasing a car? Essentially, then you don't have the expense of owning or the maintenance of a car. So it's really, this is a lot of what we're going to be talking about today really will be based off of your personal needs. And one of the things that I would recommend in that situation, if you're trying to compare Zipcar versus buying or leasing, is do the math of roughly how many times are you utilizing Zipcar now, or do you anticipate what would that cost be? What would be the cost compared to, if you're spending $500 in Zipcar a month, that may be, you may definitely be able to get a lower, purchase a car and have a lower car payment than $500. But if you're only going to be, if it's $500 a month for 2 months and then the rest of the year you're not going to be needing it, in that situation, it may not make sense to purchase a car. Another question that came in was, and I like this person said that they saw it on TikTok. Thank you for letting us know that they could put 0 down payment versus the interest rate. We actually have an example of that coming up. Another person asked, is 5% interest on loans the usual rate if you have a good credit score? So our rates right now at HUECU, our rates are down to 2.99, and that's across the board. So I would recommend, if you can get a car loan lower than 2.99, definitely look into that. But 2.99 is definitely a really good rate. Anything higher, I would encourage you to come look at us because we're giving that rate at 2.99, which is a really good one. Another question that came in, would you recommend waiting until prices hopefully return to a normal range, especially with used cars? That's a really tough question. I think we're all living this sort of waiting and seeing environment, and I just don't know what that is going to look like in a couple of months. We were talking about that before we started the webinar. We don't know what's going to happen in the fall. We don't know what the end of the year is going to look like. We're all hoping for a normal return to a new normal, but we don't quite know when that is. So if your needs are more urgent, you may not have the benefit of waiting. But if you're in a situation that you're like, you know what, I don't actually need this right now, I can hold off, then that could be something that would make sense for your situation. I like this person has a question for the folks in the session. So this is for people that are attendees. This is a question they're looking for your help with. Does anyone have an independent mechanic recommendations in the Watertown, Newton, Brighton, Waltham area? They're buying a car next month and would love it to get it fully inspected. So if folks do have a mechanic recommendation for the Watertown, Newton, Brighton, Waltham area, please drop it in the chat and we'll email it to that attendee later on. By tomorrow, we'll email you any recommendations that we get. And then the last questions before I'll jump into my section is, and this one's going to be a tough one. And you know, I'll look to Sarah and Laura. You not having owned a car, you can maybe speak to this a little bit, but the person wants to know, can we discuss the advantages of having a car over relying on public transportation in the Boston, Cambridge area? What are advantages, disadvantages of participating in the automobile industry versus mass transit system? Thinking about sustainability, the gas shortage, underfunded public transportation. It's a tough question for us to, at least for myself. I don't want to speak for the others, but it's a tough question to answer because, you know, there's so many different pieces into it. We want to support, at least I know I do want to support the MBTA and have taken the MBTA when we were going into work. I own a car, but I use the car for other things that just was not accessible to me via MBTA. But for me personally, sustainability is important. So I looked for a car that was more fuel efficient. I choose to use my car when walking or taking the T doesn't make sense, or it's just not doable. But I think for everyone, it's very, you know, we all have different levels of how sustainable we want to live, different levels of how much we want to support public transportation in other areas. So that one, I think it's really personal, but I don't know if Sarah or Laura want to add anything to that.
I mean, I can add that I 100% am on foot in public transportation. And I would say that the majority of the time, I think it works out quite well. You just have to plan your life a little bit better because you can't be as spontaneous about where you're going and when you're going to go there. I will say that during COVID is probably the first time I've really wished that I had a car. Because I didn't feel safe going on public transportation, and I didn't, luckily I live in a neighborhood that has everything I need, but it would have been nice to be able to get to nature and other things without having to worry about how to get there. So it's a hard question right now specifically, I would say. But on the whole, I do fine with a child without a car. You just have to plan.
And I'll jump in. We came from the South here, and my husband and myself both had cars. And so we downsized to one car here. And during normal times, taking the train was actually just a lot of fun for me. I guess I hadn't been, you know, late to too many things just yet on the T, but we really do believe in public transportation ourselves. But we also, you know, we lived in Somerville. We didn't have the green line just yet. Hopefully we will soon. But things weren't, you know, super walkable in our area to get to a grocery store, things of that nature. And we found that having one car to go on maybe weekly grocery trips has been helpful. But really, when we're not in COVID specifically, we do tend to take the T and walk a little bit more. So I think it's definitely personal preference. I know tons of people who've gotten by and really loved not having a car. They don't have to worry about it, don't ever have to think about putting it somewhere specific. But I know others who have said that having a car has helped them make more friends, do more things. So it is definitely personal preference.
And I'll also add, you know, it's quite I mean, you save money by not having a car, but you also tend to pay more for rent because you want to live closer to things, right? So it's sort of a give and take about what your priorities are.
Thank you both, and thank you everyone for the recommendations as well. I will be emailing those to the attendee who asked. So let's get into We have about 25 minutes left. Always feel free to continue your questions. I'm going to jump in so that we can keep moving and make sure we cover. There's a lot more to be covered. So really, we're going to talk a little bit now about the credit score and how does credit impact buying a car and taking out a car loan. And for some of you, you may be able to purchase a car without a car loan. And something to keep in mind, because the rates are so low, would it make sense for you to take the car loan and deplete savings, or would it make sense for you to pay cash and deplete your savings, or would it make sense, since the rates are low, to keep those funds in an emergency saving or keeping them available for other things? Everyone's situation is different. I say this, I have known individuals that maybe had like $15,000 saved and they decided, you know what, I'm going to get a car. I don't want to finance a lot of it, or I'm just going to pay cash. And you can get used cars depending on the condition. And then they depleted their savings. But because the rates were so low, then something else happened. They had to take on an additional debt, either with a credit card or with other debt that was much higher. So just keep in mind, before you're thinking of putting down a down payment, which we'll get into shortly, financing an auto vehicle isn't a bad thing necessarily, especially if the rates are low. Now here we want to show a couple of different examples based off of credit. I want to start off saying that the examples here are higher than currently most car loans are being offered at. We wanted to keep them at these rates just to show the differences. I have, while at the credit union, helped individuals that had car loans at 17. I think the highest was close to 20%. I think it was like 19%. So we have seen individuals that sometimes do not have the best credit score, that unfortunately car lenders or financing companies will offer a loan at a significantly high rate. And that is why when you drive by or you go on websites and you see no problem, finance everyone. Yes, everyone can get financing, but at what rate? And having a higher credit score will typically help you get a lower rate. Here you see a loan is $20,000 across the board, but the individual that has that higher credit score will get a lower rate, and the interest or the cost of the vehicle is going to be $2,600. And this is a 5-year car loan versus that individual that has a lower score and gets charged significantly more. So not only is their monthly cash flow going to be decreased because more money is required for that car payment, but the key here, and what we always want you to compare, is what is the cost of that loan? What is that interest being paid? And for that individual with the higher car rate, they're going to be paying almost $10,000. And that is in addition to the actual cost of the vehicle. So it's not just, oh, I'm paying $9,000 in interest. It's $9,000 plus that vehicle cost. This is important because a lot of times, and a lot of our questions thus far have focused on getting the best deal with the purchase of the vehicle, which is important. We want that. But we also want to think about financially, what is the best deal for you? There are going to be times that you may need a co-signer for your car. And I will say too, if you are in a situation that maybe you're going to get a much significantly higher interest rate, you could always refinance. We'll talk a little bit about that, but you can refinance. So that does not mean that you have to get stuck with a high interest rate. Right now, honestly, if you have a car loan now, or you are or know someone who does, and they're paying over 3%, I would definitely look at them to possibly refinance so that you're not paying more than you need to for that vehicle. There are going to be times you may need a co-signer, depending on, and this is where you have to know your situation. I recommend pull your credit report, know your credit score before you go in, know what you could possibly qualify for. There, you can get pre-approval. We offer it at the credit union. You can do that online. I'll talk about that shortly as well. But find out if you do need a co-signer. The car dealer or whoever you finance with may not tell you that you could get a lower rate necessarily if you have a co-signer. So find out when you're comparing financing options, what are the rates? Are they flat rates for everyone that has the same credit score? Or are they based off of a credit tier system, meaning that the higher the credit score, the lower the rate? Right now for us at the credit union, we are doing 2.99 across the board. We're really trying to help out our community. So that is something that regardless of your credit score, we're really trying to help everyone with that with the same rate, that 2.99. But there are other institutions that are doing it different. You know, we have done it differently, but because the rates are so low, we have done it that now everyone qualifies for that 2.99. Similar to our mortgage loans, everyone will qualify for the same rate regardless of interest, regardless of credit score. But they may not tell you that if you can, they may not tell you that if you get a cosigner, you could get a lower rate. So find out if it's the same rate for everyone, regardless of credit score. And if it's not, then ask, well, will it be lower if I can get a cosigner? And I mentioned pulling your credit report. You can do this at annualcreditreport.com. You can do this once a week for free through April of 2022, which is so wild to say 2022, but you know, it's going to be here before we know it. But you are able to pull it for free once a week. It used to be annual, hence the name, but they did make this change due to COVID. You can also, all of you have access to GreenPath Financial Services, Financial Wellness and their services. They can go through your credit report with you. It will not impact your credit score negatively. It's a soft pull, so that will not impact your credit score. Do know that when you're applying for credit if you're going to different lenders to see what you qualify for an auto loan, it will be a hard inquiry. So try to do that within a 2-week period. That way, your credit score won't be impacted as much. But all of you have access to GreenPath Financial Wellness. So if you're not quite sure where you stand with your credit, they won't be able to provide you your credit score for free. That is something that the credit bureaus won't offer. But if you have any major credit card, if you have our credit cards, your credit score is usually available to you for free. But if you wanted to have help on the credit report and how to improve your score, GreenPath can help you with that. And thank you. I see a lot of good questions coming up. I'm actually going to be covering some of these. So I do want to say that I am seeing those questions and I will be covering them shortly. So what is it about the financing strategy? We're going to just jump right in. When it comes to the financing strategy, a couple of folks asked this question, the cash back versus 0%, is it a scam? You have to run the numbers. You always have to run the numbers with any example. And I'm always going to put this disclaimer. This example works like this. Most of our examples have worked that we do will work one way, but still run the numbers for your own situation. Once you are in control of the transaction, Sarah mentioned this before. If you're feeling rushed, that's not a good sign. If they're telling you, well, if you do cash back, it's this. If you do 0%, it's this. Ask them what the numbers are. Ask them to calculate it. Or say, you know what, I need a minute, I'm going to calculate it myself. We did this using our calculators online, but we just compared the two. So cash back, if they gave us 5% back, 5,000 back, which basically is a $5,000 discount, that means that we would have a $20,000 loan. We're saying that it's a 5-year at 5%, but this is where you have to do the math because this is our example. If it's a different term, different interest rate, it may be different. But here you see that the total interest paid is going to be $2,600. If it's 0% interest rate, you're not going to get that discount. Oh, I'm sorry. I just realized there's a mistake here on this slide. It should be that 25,000. So I'll send the updated slide, but I would recommend doing the math and seeing what it's actually going to be. Typically, the cash back tends to be a better deal because you're going to be paying less overall, and because the rates tend to be lower. But again, I didn't just notice that, and I apologize for that mistake. So we'll update this when you get the updated. But always the key takeaway is do the math. 0% rate is good because you're not paying interest. But if the total amount that's being financed is higher, based off of what the interest rate may be, it may not be as beneficial. Loan terms, we saw a lot of questions that came in about this, which one's better? Again, we have to run the numbers. 4 years, that one's going to be here. We have 3 different loan terms. Actually, yes, we have 3 different loan terms, 20,000, 5%. The monthly payment will be lower the more that you push out the loan, but that means that the total interest paid will be higher. Some people will say, well, it's definitely better to do the 4-year. And that depends. How are you defining better? I am going to have a higher monthly payment. at $461 a month versus $283. The total interest or the difference is going to be about $1,600. Now, will I have enough income, enough of my cash flow so that I'm not taking on additional debt? Am I going to be comfortable paying that $461? If so, yes, that is a better deal. However, if I'm in a situation that I'm going to be struggling to make that $461 payment and I'm going to be supplementing my income by using credit cards and then carrying a balance, maybe the 7-year term is better option for me because I have more flexibility. And yes, I may be paying more interest, but maybe for me that peace of mind, or maybe I'm going to take $100 and put it towards emergency savings or paying off another higher interest rate debt. So it really does depend what is your current financial situation. To be in a situation that you're paying $461 a month and you don't have emergency fund, you're carrying other high interest debt, that may not be the best. And always keep in mind, you can always prepay. I would say, especially Mass, you don't have prepayment penalties, but you want to check with your specific state. I saw some people joining from Maine. I saw someone joining from Uruguay. So we have folks joining from all over. So check with your state, check with your lender, but typically there are no prepayment penalties. So one way you can avoid paying more in interest, even though the term is longer, is you can just pay more. So maybe you're comfortable paying $300, pay that on that 7-year loan and be done with it earlier. So check your entire budget. It's not just about that car loan. And this has come up a lot, so we do have a couple of examples, and Sarah will drop it in the chat so that you can see our auto page and our auto rates. But basically, you have to shop around. You have a lot of different options. You can get financing with the car dealer. They will offer financing. Typically, it's almost like a brokerage firm in a sense, because you go with them and they will be working with lenders across the country. So they'll pull your credit and sort of see what are the best options, and your lender may be in a different state. I know for my car loan, before I refinanced with us at the credit union, I was at Ohio. Like my car loan was in Ohio, even though I bought my car in Medford. But it was easier for me to go through that process, and then I refinanced. And that's something that you have the option to. If you want to make the process easier for yourself, you can always go with that car dealer if it's a good deal, and then you can refinance. They may tell you that you need to wait 90 days. That's not, you don't need to wait. I would read the fine print, but typically there's no need to wait to refinance. You can do that pretty quickly. Banks, you can also get financing for your bank, for credit union. This is an example of our rates as of today. Check around this. Ours are upfront, so you can see if you're looking for rates and they're higher than 2.99, I wouldn't recommend going there. If you find a rate that's lower, definitely check that out. And we want you to go with whatever the best financial choice will be for you. I got a couple of questions that came in about pre-approval as well. So thank you for asking. So I mentioned this earlier, and just like you can get a pre-approval for a home and for a student loan, and I apologize if you hear a little background noise. My dog is in deep sleep and is currently like snoring in his sleep. So I apologize if you hear that odd sound in the background. But you can get a pre-approval just like you get for a mortgage. This means that you can actually go onto our website, put in basic information, roughly what kind of car, like what's the cost of the car that you're looking for, how much are you looking to finance, and we'll let you know what the rate will be in advance. For us, it's 2.99 right now, so you may not need to do a pre-approval, but check other financial institutions if you're interested, and that way when you're going to the car dealership, you know what would be a good rate that's available before. I wouldn't go in and say, you know what, I know I can get 2.99 at HUCU. I would just see what they offer, and if what they offer isn't as good, then maybe tell them. There are times that sometimes you can use financing as negotiation. Sometimes they may offer you a discount if you go with them. They might say, oh, well, if you do financing with us, we can, drop it by X. Do that. If that's a good deal, you could do that, and then you can always refinance afterwards. And here's a quick overview of the auto loan process, how it typically will work. The good thing, it's very simple. It's pretty straightforward. You can usually like we do all of ours remotely. You don't have to come in, but you submit a loan application. Then, and there are a couple of different ways too. You can submit a loan application either with the credit union, a bank, or when you're purchasing the car as part of after you're done negotiating the price, they'll essentially pull your credit report there. Then the dealership is going to provide the financial institution with the registration and the title, because technically they're owning the car until you pay that off. Once you do pay off that car, you get that title, and you'll sign some papers. It's just like any loan. They're going to be disclosures. You want to read all the fine print, and they'll let you know how much funds are going to be available for that auto purchase. A couple of things to keep in mind. I mentioned this before, but if you're doing this with the car dealer, your lender may be across the country. That doesn't, especially nowadays, we do almost everything online, so that isn't a bad thing. That's just something to be aware of, that you may have financing with the institution that's in California. So you just want to be aware of hours, and if you prefer to work with someone that's local, just keep that in mind. With a car loan, it is a loan. There are going to be contracts that this came up as well in negotiating. Well, can I write something into the contract to take the car loan to be inspected? There are definitely a lot of things that you're going to have to read. If you're not familiar, if you need more time, ask for more time. You don't have to feel rushed. For those of you that through Harvard, we do have access to, it's a benefit for the legal services. So if you want to reach out to them and see if they can assist with reading the fine print, if you're not comfortable, also know that Harvard's EAP can also provide resources. So if you're not quite sure what the contract will look like, or you want someone else to help, the EAP can usually provide resources to help support you as well. And don't feel bad about asking questions. You're the consumer, you're the one that they need to be essentially pleasing. And if they're rushing you, if you're not feeling comfortable, that's a sign that you may not want to do business with that institution. You do have many rights. The Truth in Lending Act, this is the same for any loan you've taken in the past. I forget how many years at this point, but at least I feel like almost a decade, that the terms have to be listed very, very clearly. They'll list the terms, how many months the loan is for. They'll list the total cost of the loan, the interest. There are also the Consumer Leasing Act, so there are information about leasing, and a lot of these documents are available online, so you can actually search for them. The information won't be filled in, but you can familiarize yourself with these. So when you go into the car dealership and when you're comparing them, you're not looking at the document for the first time. That way you feel a little bit more comfortable. And there is a lemon law, but it basically means that if the car isn't working, you would be issued a refund, but that does apply to new cars. That does not apply to used cars, so you want to be careful with those used cars, and that's why getting a second opinion or getting the Carfax, getting more information about that specific vehicle can be beneficial. There's a lot of information here, so I would say our blog, we have a lot of articles. We do have some on car buying, and we have more that will be coming up, so you can go onto our website to subscribe, and you get a recap of our blogs monthly, so you don't have to visit it. You can just get a recap. And then we do have the survey, so Sarah will drop that in the chat for you so that you have that, and we really do value your feedback. As Sarah mentioned earlier, this presentation was a result of survey feedback. A couple of people mentioned wanting more information on buying an auto loan, buying a car and how to finance it. So we put this together. So please take the time. It helps us improve the presentations that we're offering. And I did mention this disclaimer at the beginning. It's a lot to consider. There are a lot of different complexities, and we tried our best to give you as much information as possible. And if you leave with questions, that's okay. We want you to, sometimes it's that saying, you don't know what you don't know, and that's what we're here for. We're here to bring different things to light and take this information, empower yourself, continue looking more into it. I saw someone said that they were using TikTok. Yes, use TikTok, use YouTube, go on blogs, get more information so that you're in a more comfortable situation when you go into that process of comparing options. We do have a good amount of questions that came in, so I'm going to just go through a couple of these. Someone said thank you, so thank you, appreciate that. Someone asked, do you start with the lender or with the dealer? I would recommend knowing what you can get outside of the dealer before going to the dealer. So like for us, it's 2.9 across the board. So when you go to the car dealer, if you're getting offered a higher rate, you know that you can qualify for a lower one. And it's a fairly quick process. If you do decide to tell them, you know what, I'm going to do my own financing, that's fine. They're going to give you a time period to submit it. We do these pretty quickly. We turn them around pretty quickly. And even if you don't go with us, with whomever you do go with, it's a very quick process. Do not feel like you're adding a barrier. It's very common. It's a very common process. Someone asked about green discounts. So we used to have green discounts. We actually just dropped our rates for everyone to that 2.99. I'll have to look into it, and Sarah, feel free if you remember. I don't believe we have the green discount anymore. I think we do, actually, or I don't know. Sarah, do you remember? I'd have to look it up.
I believe we still do.
Okay, thank you.
On our auto loans, it is a quarter of a percentage point, I believe. That exact number I am looking up right now, but yes, we do still have a green discount, and that is a quarter of a percentage off the rate for purchasing a hybrid or electric vehicle.
Thank you, Sarah. And can the lease be transferred if the interest is high? I would check. With leases, it's a little bit trickier because that's sometimes part of the deal. I would check the fine print, contact them and see. Yeah, I would check. I don't know that one, but I would check directly with them. For us, we do accept. Like we will refinance, assuming the lender allows that. A good question about if I get a car loan with HUCU, but then stop working at Harvard, what happens? Once you're a member, you are a member for life. So if you are thinking about leaving Harvard, I would recommend becoming a member before you do so, because then you have access to all of our products for life. If you stop working at Harvard and are no longer and weren't a member before, you won't be able to become a member unless you are an alum or if you just retired from Harvard. If you have a good credit score but are a first-time buyer, would you still need a cosigner? No, typically you won't. If you have a good credit score, car loans are one of the easiest loans to get because the rates can fluctuate so much, but usually do not need a cosigner. The benefit to you would be if you didn't have a good credit score and wanted to get a lower rate. Does a car loan application pull a credit score? Yes, regardless if you do a credit score with us, car application with us or with someone else, it will impact your credit score. For us, you don't need to do that right now because it's 2.99. So we're telling you what the rate is, so you don't have to pull your credits with us. And how do you become a member? Sarah will drop it in the chat, hucu.org. You can just apply, be a member online. You need $5 to open a savings account, and then you have access to all of our products. And that $5 is always yours. It just makes you an owner of the credit union, which you will have in your account forever. Another question, if I stop working at Harvard, but I'm still an HUCU member, could my spouse become a member? Yes. So once you're a member, once you're a member for life. And anyone that is in your household is also eligible for membership. And by household, it's really more than that. It's really your family. So grandparents, partners, children, grandchildren, and siblings are all eligible for membership once you are.